we wanted to know why there was a lack of interest in women's professional sports in Spain. To answer this, we created a survey, conducted interviews, and collected 2 major sports newspapers, as well as using online resources. We found overall that the lack of interest is caused by less media coverage, the emphasis on masculine culture in Spain, and the large salary gap and money spent on female professional sports.
Lack of media coverage. We collected both AS and Marca sports papers for 14 days. There were 1,248 pages total collected. 1,238 of those pages collected were articles about male sports. Only 10 pages total were articles about women's professional sports. 0.8% of the content was content on women's professional sports. In total, only 50 articles were written on women's professional sports. 30% of those articles were not even about Spanish female athletes. After finding this lack of coverage, we asked people, does lack of coverage in media affect women's encouragement to play?
I think it affects completely, because if you normally watch TV and you just see like sports related with men, just competition with men, and just important like the finals with men, then it's like you're covering something that it exists but you don't show it.
It is completely related, these things, because we watch TV and we see football, I don't know, they're always talking about Barca and Real Madrid, and it's like that. We are not used to see women in sports in TV, and I think that influenced the people and all the viewers of television.
The problem is that all the media and everything involves boys to those activities, so it's not that they have this fear of non-encouragement to do it, but maybe they don't see other persons to portray them, to have some reference and to wanting to do that.
Media has have a lot of power to build our culture, and sports is a part of culture. So the time media don't show women practicing sports, and society aren't gonna change. So I think as citizens we should ask for the media to change that, because media has the power to change that culture.
An article in the Women in Sport and Physical Activity Journal sums up these interviews. The authors of Gender in Sports coverage of American and Spanish online newspapers found that before Title IX, there were 300,000 female high school athletes, while there are now about 2.4 million. However, the media attention has not reflected these improvements. When women's athletics are not represented in the media, the message is conveyed that they do not exist or they are not important enough to be newsworthy. These differences in media attention provoke an imbalance in the athletic information and images available. This imbalance creates a closed circle from which it is hard to escape. If there is less information available and less female sports promotion, it may be harder to catch the interests of new young athletes. Therefore, there may be no increase in participation. However, if there is no increase in participation, information and promotion may not improve unless the current system of news reporting changes.
The data shows that people prefer to consume media about male sports. 66.67% prefer to watch male sports over female sports. And only 8.3% said that they have watched women's sports on TV. Machismo culture. We asked Richard Fitzpatrick, what do you think is the main reason for the lack of interest in female professional sports in Spain? He said, because of machismo. This is perhaps a generalization, but is based on my impressions as an Irish person who has lived in other countries. I find Spain has a macho culture.
Normally, like it's more, if a man says that he wants to to do a career related with sports, it's more normal. But with women, it's not so well seen that you are just playing sports as a career and you don't study or nothing. I don't know, it doesn't look like so well, you know?
I think society and everybody tells them that they are supposed to be mothers and to get pregnant and this kind of stuff. So it's not, I mean, you can't be pregnant, you can't get a successful sport career if you want to have children or stuff like that. I mean, you can, but it's not that easy as a man could get it, you know. So I think that's the main reason, because still now women are supposed to got a family and take care of it.
I think it's because you have to be brave, because if men take a sport as a career, people see them as heroes. But if women do, it's not as well considered, which I think it's not good, but it's like the general view.
I don't think so. I think that nowadays boys are more encouraged to do sports rather than girls, because maybe society is like they put boys like in this more in those activities than girls.
I think younger girls maybe in school are sometimes are not encouraged as much as the boys, cause there's an old culture about sports are for boys, and you know that's a pity.
Marian Vassi, author of the book Soccer, Culture, and Society in Spain, analyzes the machismo culture. She writes, "She is a woman, therefore she isn't suitable for competitive play, but if she plays competitively, she is defeminized because she goes against her designated cultural motto. Women players are dismissed not only because of their strong muscular bodies, but also because they occupy traditionally male spaces and male attitudes of play." This highlights the view of male dominance in sports that the students we interviewed were describing.
Lack of money. We asked Richard, why do females in Spain not pursue careers in professional sports as much as men? He responded, "The money isn't as good. Top male soccer players in Spain, for example, earn untold sums. It's not possible for a female Spanish sports star to make that much money."
I think the problem is that there's not enough people interested in like giving support as economic support, because there's a lot of sponsors for men but not as much as women. So I think if it's like it's all a chain, like if journalists were more interested, sponsors would be more interested, and then women would be more interested because they could take it as a job.
I think that the reason for that is that because the men's sports are more, they have more influence in the media, they have more money, and you can, if you're a man and you practice sports, you can aim to live because playing sports. And I don't know, it's all about the sponsors and things like that, because all the money in the media for sports is oriented to men, and if you're a woman and you're playing sports, you have less sponsors, and that is less money to make a living of that, I think.
One specific example is the Spanish national handball team. They won the bronze at the World Cup in 2011 and at the 2012 Olympics, yet they do not get paid nearly as much as the men's team. Their wages are so low that they cannot make a living on what they earn. Carmen Manchado, a former handball player and current director of the Spanish Committee of the European Handball Federation, says, "Almost all of the women players are students or are working. That is why they end up playing for the most powerful leagues like the French. Growing numbers of the Spanish athletes who compete in team sports are now joining leagues in other countries where they can actually make a living."
The average earnings for famous Spanish male athletes versus women are uncomparable. Rafael Nadal made $32.5 million last year. Pau Gasol made $21.8 million last year. And Gabriel Muguruza made only $5.4 million last year.
In conclusion, there needs to be more media coverage of women's sports to encourage female participation and to create heroes for them to follow and aspire to be like. There is also a general view in Spanish society that sports are more acceptable for men than for women. Females are expected to do other activities that do not require as much physical activity. Lastly, there is a very large gap between how much money female and male athletes earn. There was a consensus among the interviewees that these discrepancies should be changed, but Spain will need to improve in media coverage, masculine culture, and salary gap before the public will be more interested in professional female sports.
Because there was nowhere in sports to go. Now